Hello everybody, my name is Braxton Thiel and I'm joined by
Ekebek.
and we are from G12IB and today we're going to do our second podcast episode. Should math be mandatory or not? Well, I saw a video like a lot of people have a strong feeling about math, a strong negative feeling about math, and they feel like math should not be mandatory. However, we do know that math is, important. There are some arguments for why math should be mandatory. Let's start with you. What do you think? Should math be mandatory or not? Because I know you're someone with a bad feeling.
Yeah. I do have a difficulty in learning it and a rather negative attitude towards math. Well, mine was caused mostly due to a rather disconnected way of learning, as I've skipped most of the content over the years, because as a kid I didn't take math very seriously. I do admit that it is quite my fault, but I have to add that perhaps the way we teach kids are not the best way, and perhaps a better, more engaged way should have been enforced on them instead.
Right. Because I feel like, also I agree with you, like math taught in school is very like, oh, just follow this formula.
Yeah.
Don't understand why it works,
Yeah.
it just works like that.
It just works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I also agree with you, I'm also struggling with math because in my younger days I did not put a lot of attention, and math is built on foundations.
Definitely.
Once you don't have the foundation,
You just screwed.
yeah, math is super difficult. However, okay, there are arguments for making math mandatory worldwide. Some of us, like my parents, they tell me math is super important because they give you critical thinking skills and problem solving skills that is very important in the 21st century. What do you think about this concept?
Problem solving and critical thinking. Well, I do agree, I have to agree up to some point. Math in the earlier days especially are very, very crucial to the way we navigate through our day. Like, okay, I'm not speaking, dividing, multiplication, I'm not speaking of that because that is common sense, we all know we need that, but I'm saying more advanced stuff such as, let's say, probability. Yeah, I do agree that these are probably things that add to your daily experience.
Right. And I was also thinking, in my case, although I agree that not a lot of people will need calculus in real life, learning the basics of algebra, learning the basics of probability, especially as a physics student, is really, really helpful for me because I have to solve physics problems with a lot of math and stuff like that. But I do agree with you that if you're a historian, you probably don't need calculus.
Yeah.
Well, then the second one is like people who take STEM. Have you heard of STEM?
No, can you explain what that is for me?
Like science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Alright.
So people who study these fields, they need to have math.
Yeah.
So do you think that we should enforce math on everyone so that everyone has the opportunity to study those fields in university?
Well, although if you do want to do something like that, yes. And if you don't know what you want to do, maybe there should be some way, like some courses that help you guide through it. But if you see that you don't have an aptitude for it, then maybe you should be allowed to just skip over some content. Or at least not take it as seriously as people who will study STEM will.
Yeah.
So it should be a more career-directed path for his students to take rather than just an enforced one, I believe.
Okay, so you think that if you're 16 and you know that you want to study history, the school shouldn't enforce you to study math?
Exactly.
Right. But what about the people who later on in life, for example, I'm 16 years old and I don't really know what to study. Should the school still enforce me to study math? Because if I don't study math, the next time I know I'm not going to study engineering. That's for sure. I wouldn't have the opportunity to study engineering. Do you think the school has the right to still obligate me to study math?
Well, that's where the discussion really gets to the gritty bits, I'd say, because as kids not knowing what to do next, it is very important to get all the information as you can so you can decide what you want to do with it next. And I'd like to bring up a school system that I've seen over the years being applied in I can't tell you exactly where the country was, but it is a foreign country, where they apply a program where they give you around 2 years and a bunch of money. So you go around the world, you study, you see different things, you live different things, and you make up your mind during that time. You say, oh, wow, this is very impressive and I would like to study this.
Okay.
And once you made up your mind, you come back and you study focused on that.
Okay.
That way, you both know what you want to do, and you also don't study anything that you don't need. And you also get, real world experience that helps you choose better. And I believe that is a very good way of dealing with this topic.
So is this in the European Union? Or?
No, not in European Union.
No,
I believe it's actually a very uncommon country. I think it was like Arabia actually.
Wow.
Might be.
Wow. So yeah, speaking from personal experience, we both do the IB, and the IB forces us to do math. But I think, okay, the one thing I want to bring up about the IB, they do have easier math, more applied math, and more abstract math, like the ones that we're doing. So maybe school systems should adopt different types of math?
Different levels?
Yeah, like catering to different needs. For example, the math we're doing is more abstract, it's more difficult, right? It's more maybe for engineers, physicists.
Yeah, definitely, but how big will that need to be? Because the more separation you make between classes, then that will mean that these students cannot stay in the same class, and you will have to give them either different hours or different classrooms with different teachers, so that not only are you increasing the needs of the school, you're also increasing the requirements of other subjects like the teachers, yada yada.
Actually, you raised a really good point with the teachers and having more classes, because the UK, the current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, he wants to make math mandatory again in high school. However, they are finding problems hiring enough teachers to make math mandatory. It's a problem nowadays with finding teachers because they're so underpaid and everything. So yeah, like you said, maybe having different math classes would be very difficult to implement. Yeah,
it will be nice. I mean, of course it will be, because not everyone wants to learn the same amount of math, and it also gives them a distaste for math when they have to learn something that they don't need. So a different level will definitely be very necessary and very nice, but it is very difficult to implement.
Yeah, but honestly, I felt like the IB and IB math personally has helped me. Because before I could not really solve any math equation, and now I could at least think logically on how to approach a problem and apply it to physics. Because remember, it's not only math, you can apply math to physics, to engineering, to, I don't know, like so many things. Let's talk about a school system where math is not mandatory.
Okay.
Bachillerato in Spain, the national program. They do not make math mandatory. Do you think this is a good thing?
Well, when do they stop learning math? Till when is it mandatory?
I think ESO.
ESO?
I think...
ESO 4? ESO...
Yeah, I think the fourth ESO. After that, it's no longer mandatory.
So as long as you enter Bachillerato, it's done.
Yeah.
Well, remembering fourth of ESO math, then I'd say it's not a bad point to drop off. I mean, you do learn most of the things you will need, functions, yada yada. But do they give you an option? Yeah, right, it's not mandatory, but there is an education for it.
Exactly, yeah. But they call it the science stream, the humanities stream.
Okay, yeah.
Right. But the thing is, I'm really scared that a lot of people choose they know that humanities is going to be easier. They choose the humanities stream, but later on in life, they do not have the math abilities. I have somebody in mind, but I do not want to say, no, it's not you, it's not you. But right now they're struggling with calculating 10% of 100 and stuff like that. So, well, that's the argument. Should math be mandatory?
Well, 10% that was SO4. That was before that. I don't know what happened in the middle, but I think he might have been lost in translation a bit. I don't think that's an issue of the school system, I have to say. But, well, after Bachillerato, I do agree that it is a very good point you should know enough to guide you through your life, I'd say, because they do teach you a lot during that time. And whether or not it should be mandatory, I think it's fine if it's not mandatory, because if up to that point you have no taste or liking towards math, I doubt you're gonna get one now. I mean, it's been a really long time that you don't like math. But it can happen, so it's very hard to decide.
Now that you mentioned that, actually I was thinking maybe math is not should be made mandatory, but it should be made so that everybody can apply it to their daily life. Like teachers maybe should make it a bit more fun, a bit more practical.
Yeah, practical, definitely.
Right, practical. Not just say, okay, this formula is this formula because I said so, or because some mathematician said so. But really explain why the formula works and derive it, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea actually. But yeah.
But that's the thing about math. Most of them don't have any practical or explanation behind it, which definitely makes it hard for more practical or explanation-based people to learn. I, for one, am one of those people who like to search for a sense of reasoning behind every theory or any type of source of knowledge that I receive. So when I try to learn math and I see something and it just doesn't make sense to me, I just fail to learn that part because there is no explanation. It just is because it is.
Right.
That really made me hate math.
That's the thing. I remember I used to go to a public school back in my home country, and the way they would teach math is, the Pythagoras theorem. And I would ask the teacher, why do we need the Pythagoras theorem? It's important, you're gonna need it one day.
Yeah, exactly.
But then actually, when you dig deeper, actually the Pythagoras theorem is really useful in geometry. Without it, we wouldn't be able to navigate, we wouldn't be able to find unknown sites in engineering. So I really wish teachers took the time to explain it to us.
Yeah.
Maybe that would get me more interested.
Maybe, like give a good reason why we're trying to learn that. I mean,
it
just doesn't make sense to just say, oh yeah, learn it because, you know.
Yeah, it's important.
Pretty nice. I'd say so. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, it just doesn't.
So I would really like to take my time to appreciate IB math, because the one thing that the IB math does really well, especially in our syllabus, is they always try to connect it to real life.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe it's a bit abstract to connect it to real life.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes it doesn't make too much sense.
I always see like probability, then they will show a real life example. Functions, they will show like modeling examples, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say the IB math is well made. I don't know if you agree with me.
I do agree. IB math is quite well programmed. It does have some parts where I don't agree with it, but some parts are really well.
Yeah. Especially when I'm reading through cognitive and I see, this is a real life example of this.
Yeah, I really like those.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of get more interested in math, even though I may not understand it. But yeah,
it makes it more interesting in a way.
So would you agree that like most people would be interested in math if it were taught that way?
I think so. I mean, the classic question in math is, teacher, but are we going to use this in real life?
Yeah.
Everyone's asking what's in their life.
Right.
And most of the time, they're asked to stop asking that.
Yeah.
Because it's not really going to help them in any way.
Right.
Because you probably won't be.
Yeah.
But if math was selected in a way where we can apply it, and we have a reason to why apply it, I think lots of more kids will be more interested because they're like, wow.
Right.
Then maybe I do need this. Maybe this is important after all. And I think that's a very nice thought process to have when going into something.
And I think there's also that's a good point. There's also a really bad mindset when it comes to math. Like, for example, do you realize that in our society it's okay to be bad at math, but it's not okay to be bad at reading, writing, English.
Yeah.
So, do you think the fear from being bad at math, the fear of math, is due to school? Is due to the way it's being taught?
Fear of math. Well, perhaps.
Right.
I mean, people are really pushed into math quite early on, and they will be kept being pushed to it throughout most of their lives, at least their school lives, I mean. And it does create a sense of disdain where it is mentioned. That is true.
Because your parents keep on telling you, just do it.
And kind of some people stop trying to learn it for that reason. And it does create some complications along the way.
That's the thing about math. Once your foundation is gone, it's so hard to build on top of it.
It is very
so
hard.
I'm really struggling to build my foundation.
Same.
But I feel that if we have foundation, math will be so much easier.
Yeah, I feel like if maybe we weren't that forced into it and we kind of tried enjoying it more, and we actually learned, because enjoyment is a big process in learning. I mean, no one can force you to learn something you don't want to learn. And they can't force you, but you will forget it eventually. That is something very crucial. Then I feel like more people will enjoy math. Because you will have the foundations, and after the foundations are there, it's kind of like solving puzzles, you know? It's not something bad at all.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think, well, to summarize the key points, we
Yeah.
think that math should be made more fun, more practical in the sense that
Definitely.
everyone can apply it in real life.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, you think that after 16, maybe students can choose
Yeah.
whether they want to study or not, no?
Yeah. All the basics and most important parts should be applied before 16, and
Mhm.
after 16, it shouldn't be mandatory anymore.
Right. And we both also agree that maybe there should be different types of math catering to different people.
Yeah.
But, well, it will be very difficult to implement.
Yeah.
Teacher shortage and logistics.
Yeah.
So, well, I think we highlighted a lot of key points.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today on this
Yeah,
podcast.
you too. I'll be seeing you next time. No?
Subscribe.
Yup.